Welcome to Lynchian Picks on Coffee Nick's Movie Picks, a members-only collection venturing into the dreamlike world of David Lynch films and black, damn fine coffee. You are listening to part 3 of 10 for Lynchian Picks. This is covering David Lynch's 1984 adaptation of Dune. Our black coffee pairing for this discussion is the Handshake blend from Blanchard's Coffee. Please take a seat, stay a while, and let's talk David Lynch over some black coffee. Hello everyone, how are we doing out there? How's it going? I feel like it has been a week of darkness and gloom. It's been raining nonstop. I need some sunshine on my skin ASAP. I do love the rain, I love the moodiness, I love the gloom, I love that all. But when it gets to a point, I can't function. So I hope you, wherever you are, whenever you're listening to this, there's some sunshine amidst the gloom. Isn't that Lynchian? Whoa, isn't that Lynchian? 2 episodes in 1 week. Wow. Who am I? What's happening to me? I recorded 2 episodes in 1 week. I released 2 episodes in 1 week. Not just bonus, full-length episodes. If you missed out on that, I did release earlier this week a review of Friday the 13th, which was a lot of fun. I have a newfound love for that movie, and I've not stopped thinking about it ever since I saw it, which is not good because I have another movie that I need to discuss today, a movie that is nowhere near as good as that one, and a movie that I have nowhere near a fun time with as that one, if that makes sense. I've been in a mood today where I've been jumbling all my words. I had a long day at work, so please forgive me if my words get jumbly, or if I sound, frankly, stupid. I'm trying my best. I've tried recording this episode so many times now, and I'm like, I just gotta roll with this one. I gotta roll with whatever I say in this one. But if you missed that review of Friday the 13th, definitely go and listen to that. It's a lot of fun. I cannot guarantee this one will be a lot of fun because of the movie we are discussing. But I will try my best. I will try my best to make it fun for you. In other news, I'm moving. I am moving. I signed a new lease today, and I think it's really funny because the last time that I did like a director series on my show, The Gretathon, I also moved, and it disrupted the series, and all the dates got messed up, and everything got pushed back like a month. I do not plan on having that happen this time. However, I will never say never, and I did put a little thing in the schedule that said dates are subject to change, so I did plan for this, but I am very much in control of this series. I'm a few episodes ahead even, and the move is very mild. That move was from like, hometown to city, and this move is like 5 blocks down the street in the city. So it should be very mild, and also I have overlapping leases, which my bank account is not happy about. But overlapping leases means I can just slowly move things over. So I do not plan on Lynchian Picks being affected at all. However, just saying that, not ruling it out. So very excited about that. I'm really excited about this new place. It's a little bit bigger, which is nice because I'm recording this currently in my little tiny room. And it's just a beautiful apartment. I really like the location. It has like a lot of character. So I'm really excited for that. And I'll be moving. I'm recording this on June 18th. Don't know when I'll release this, but I'm going to start moving first week of July. So I'm really nervous because I'm going away this weekend, and then I'm going on a trip next weekend/week. So it's coming up, and of course, I signed the lease today. I have not started packing, so who knows what I'll be feeling down the pipeline. But speaking of that, there are a lot of really exciting things happening on the show pretty soon. Like I said, 2 episodes came out this week, which I'm very proud of if this episode gets released in time. But coming up, I have a review coming out for a new movie with a dear friend of mine who has never been on the podcast before, and I'm really, really, really excited about that review. I have the next episode of Lynchian Picks of this series. That is a review that I've been sitting on for a long time. That is with a returning guest. Who I guess he's been on once before, and I'm really excited to have him back. It's a really, really in-depth discussion of Blue Velvet, so I'm excited to finally be putting that out, and I maybe have another episode with a guest coming out soon as well, so lots of stuff is happening. So it's as good a time as any to be a fan of the show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Let's just get moving right into this. Our first segment is Now Brewing, and this is a segment reviewing coffee as black as midnight on a moonless night. Now Brewing in today's episode is the Handshake blend from Blanchard's Coffee Roasting Company. Now, if you did happen to listen to the Friday the 13th review, that coffee in the Shoeless Joe was actually Blanchard's coffee. Golf Park Coffee, they use Blanchard's as like their house blend, which is really cool. And I mentioned in that episode, a lot of places in Central Virginia use Blanchard's as their house blend because they are roasted in Richmond, Virginia, and that's where they're based. So if you live in Virginia and you go to a lot of like independent coffee shops, it's very likely that you've tried their coffee before, which I think is really cool that Virginia shops rely on Virginia roasted coffee. It's really nice. And if you're from the Richmond area, there's also a few brick and mortar Blanchard's locations, so you can actually go there and try coffee from a Blanchard's barista. And I have not been to one, and I really, really would like to go to one. I've heard so many good things about them, and they're like independent standalone stores. So I would really like to try it. But yeah, this Handshake blend, I just got a pound bag of it. Actually, it's a really cute story. Golf Park, they have a coffee vending machine outside of their store. And so I got it from there, and it was really cool. You like punch in the code like a normal vending machine, and it drops down the pound bag of coffee. I took a video of it, so maybe I'll post it on my socials later. But I really like that they did that. I think that's really fun and really cute. Just enhanced my golf park experience, which I talked about in that episode. So check that out if you want. But yeah, it was really cool. A little bit about the Handshake blend. This is what Blanchard's had listed on their website. Quote, "The Handshake blend is a seasonal direct trade blend honoring the close relationship between farmer and roaster. Handshake is designed to be a full-bodied, rich, sweet blend, highlighting the best, most approachable characteristics of the origins used, while maintaining complexity that keeps all types of palates interested and coming back for more." End quote. That last sentence was really long. Wow, losing my breath over here. But good description, good description. And I would agree with that. I thought that this was a very light and easy drink. This is a solid cup of coffee to start your day with if you like coffee that's like not too acidic. I made this using my pour over set and it came out great. Their website recommends using a French press, which mine broke, so I was not able to do that. But really, really tasty, very light, great way to start your day. For the notes, what really came through for me, it was very sweet, and I was really getting like that nutty flavor with a little bit of the chocolate. I wasn't quite getting the fruit that they listed on the package, but yeah, it was definitely, this is a sweet, light coffee drink. I wouldn't call it a light roast though. It's still more of like a medium roast. It was pretty low acidity, like I said. So overall, I thought that this is just like a really pleasant, easy cup of coffee, really solid. This is just like a good go-to coffee to have on hand. So I would recommend going to their online store, picking up a package, or even swinging by one of their vending machines and just having a little fun getting coffee through a vending machine. That's so cool. So I'm going to give the Handshake blend from Blanchard's Coffee Roasting Company the Nick Pick. I've been giving a lot of Nick Picks. I think all of them have been Nick Picks on the series so far. There's just a lot of good black coffee to talk about, I think. Anyways, our next segment, The Coffee Thought, is an outlet dedicated to voice my minute and coherent thoughts over a cup of coffee. This is kind of crazy to talk about. I Normally, I would never admit something like this, but normally, something like this would never happen. I am drinking. I don't even know if I want to say it. I don't know if I want to say this. This could ruin my career. I'd be out of a job. I would be out of a job if this news got out. But since we are in the coffee house right now, it's just us. It's just us friends, us family. Um, right now I am drinking a cup of tea. That's I'm so humiliated right now. Normally, you will never ever 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 catch me drinking tea. Not in my weakest moments. I could have whatever sickness, I could have the flu, I could have COVID. I don't know what I could have. You will not catch me drinking tea. But here I am sitting here drinking a cup of tea. And I don't know, it just is something like as a proud coffee drinker and as someone who just I always go back to coffee, it's just something I pride myself in not drinking. But I think I mentioned this earlier on in the episode. I have been so jumbly today. My words have been so jumbled up. I have tried recording this episode so much tonight, and this was my night. I reserved the night. I was like, I'm going to record the Dune episode. But my mind just has not been there. And I guess this is a good thing to talk about in my coffee thought. I kind of just went into this not knowing what I would say. Um, you know, some days you just don't feel like it. And maybe it's not even you don't feel like it. Some days you just can't. And I don't know, like as a writer and as a self-proclaimed podcaster, who knows? Do I even podcast? I don't know. I You just have those moments where it's like, wow, I can't exactly pinpoint why, but I cannot talk right now. I can't form a coherent thought. And you kind of start, you keep like, if you're writing, maybe you write a bit and you delete a whole paragraph. You're like, no, 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 that sounds so bad. Podcasting, I like record the intro and I'm like, no, no, I didn't sound good. I didn't say that with like the right intonations and stuff like that. Um, and I go back and then I'm like, okay, I just have to keep going. And I keep going, I keep going. I keep jumbling my words. I keep sounding like not good in my mind. I wasn't thinking I sounded good. And I keep doubting myself. And I don't know. I recorded this episode up until I was getting into the movie review. I had a completely different coffee thought that I didn't love. Um, and I just wasn't I couldn't feel like that flow. And I feel like that's whenever I have a good episode is when I feel that flow. It's like just it's a steady stream of consciousness. And I'm not doubting myself the whole time. And no matter how many times I was trying to record, I was not getting that flow. And I feel the same sort of flow when I'm writing. Sometimes I just feel that block where I'm like, I feel like anything I write down would be dishonest, or I feel like it wouldn't be right. So I looked around in my room that I'm recording in, and I realized I'm recording this episode in a dark room. It's nighttime, and my bed hasn't even been made. Sorry, we're just like going. I'm gonna be vulnerable. My bed hasn't even been made. My clothes I wore to work are just like thrown across the floor. It's dark in here. The only light is coming from this screen and my salt lamp over there, and I just like subconsciously know that there's a bunch of dishes sitting in the sink, and I don't know. I also knew that like what I was recording, I was not super proud of. And I have tickets to see a movie at 9:55. It's currently 9:26. Luckily, I live right by the theater, so I'm kind of like on a timer that way too. But I was like, something is stopping me from having that flow right now. There is something tampering, like I don't know. It's stopping me from doing what I know I can do. So what I did, I stood up and I was like, I don't know exactly what is stopping me right now, but I need to put myself in a position where I know I can deliver my best. So I got up, I went to the kitchen, and I've been trying to drink less coffee recently. I've tried to just do 2 cups a day, one in the morning, one after lunch. And I usually do a third like around 5 o'clock. I've been trying to cut that out because I've just felt like so tense and so like not well from drinking that much coffee. So I know I had some matcha tea somewhere. So I put on some matcha tea because I think I just needed like a drink. I needed something hot. I really would have loved coffee, but like I said, it's 9 p.m. I just needed something hot and something comfortable. So I put that on. I did the dishes, came into my room, put away my clothes. I put my bathrobe from this morning when I took my shower back in my bathroom. I made my bed. I broke apart the box for the Amazon delivery I got, which I got David Lynch's book, which I'm really excited to read. Um, and I turned on some of the side lights in my room, some of like the ambiance lights, and I sat down and I was like, okay, I have like 40, 50 minutes before my movie starts tonight. I'm going to see the new How to Train Your Dragon. And I was like, now is as good a time as any. Like, if I'm going to do it, it's going to be right now. And I do set these like deadlines for myself. And there's no real consequences if I miss a deadline because, it's just me making this podcast. But the deadlines feel very real to me. So, like, if I tell myself, like, tomorrow I'm going to release this or I'm going to edit this, I'm going to do that. So I really felt the pressure. And I don't know, I sat down with my tea and with the lights turned on, with my bed made and everything. And I'm like, here we go. And this episode, I've been feeling the flow. I don't know if you all are able to tell, but I definitely feel the flow. I feel just more vulnerable, more natural. Like I can kind of just say whatever and not really, doubt it and not feel self conscious about it or in the back of my head, no, it's not my best work. Um, so I guess the moral to all of this is save it to the last minute, put yourself through impossible situations, pressure test, and just spiral about everything is the lesson I have to offer. Yeah. But in all honesty, no, jokes aside, put yourself in the environment and in the headspace where you know you are able to deliver your best product. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying not to get like too professional advicey on this podcast, but this isn't professional. This is my hobby. This is my hobby. This is not professional. So, yeah, and I think just lessons I'm learning in real time. And I think even though that's something I know and that's something I knew before today, I I like hit the ground running once I got home from work and I was like, I gotta record this episode. I sat down, I was trying to record it, and there was just a mess, like fire burning around me. And, I think I kind of had to get to the point where I was like getting in my own head and like freaking out a bit to get to the point where I was like, oh, I see what's happening. I need to put myself in the headspace, in the environment where I know I can be natural and feel comfortable right now. So, um, yeah, if you're experiencing writer's block, if you are a podcaster, which if you're listening to my podcast and you're a podcaster, oh my gosh, I'm honored. Thank you. And you are like just feeling very frustrated and like stunted and kind of have like that writer's block, put yourself in a new environment or clean up the one around you. Um, I don't know. For me, environments really make or break like my creative process. I have such a hard time writing in my room. I need to be like at a coffee shop in order to write. I need to be in like some place different. I don't know why that is, but yeah, that that's what I have to say today. That is what I have to say. Our next segment is now showing. Now showing Lynchian Picks Part 3 of 10, Dune. When his family is instructed to occupy the desert planet Arrakis, Paul Atreides and his mother, Lady Jessica, survive a ruinous trap set by their sworn enemies, the Harkonnens. Taken in as refugees by the native Fremen people, Paul and Jessica set into motion a holy war and prophecy. Dune is adapted and directed by David Lynch and based on the original novel by Frank Herbert. It stars Kyle MacLachlan as Paul and Francesca Annis as Lady Jessica. It was originally released in theaters on December 14th, 1984. Wow. Okay. The first thing I would like to mention up front is that this is a special review because this is the first time in the show's history that I have reviewed a film for the second time on the show. So, for those of you who are not aware, I reviewed David Lynch's Dune all the way back on my second ever episode of the podcast. I had Argyle and then a double feature with Dune Part 1, this Dune, and then a bonus episode of Dune Part 2. If you would like to listen to any of that, it is all linked in the show notes. So I listened back to that review in order to prepare for this one, just because I wanted to make sure I wasn't just like directly restating everything I said. I had something new to contribute, because originally I was thinking like, why not just re-release that episode within Lynchian Picks, like the series. But I was like, I think I could have something different to offer. And listening back to this old episode, wow, I am so glad I'm recording this now. First of all, I just want to note like I just how different this podcast was back then, for obvious reasons. I mean, like just the opening music for the show was completely different, the vibe, and the way I spoke was so different. I came into the recording sounding like Jojo Siwa. I was like, hey, what's up, you guys? Today we're going to review Dune. It's Coffee Nick's Movie Picks, blah, blah, blah. Crazy. Crazy. I remember when I would record episodes back then, after I was done recording, I would feel so tired and my voice would feel so exhausted. I would almost have like lost my voice. And it makes complete sense because that Jojo Siwa tone, I carry that like throughout the entire episode. So I'm glad that I think I've just become a better podcaster. I also think that I've become a better film reviewer. I think while I did have some good points in that original review and a lot of my older episodes, older reviews, I think my reviews were not as cohesive. I don't think they had as much of as like an overall overarching narrative. And I think I tended to over exaggerate a lot, which I will note that later in this episode, like one point, I just exaggerated way too much. It was kind of funny. But overall, I think I felt very similarly during that viewing than I did with this one. One of the main things that really bothered me about that viewing were the voiceovers throughout. I thought they were very awkward and confusing, really held the story back. I also had a lot of complaints about the structure of the story in my original viewing. While I did like some of the set designs and the practical effects in the original viewing, I also thought a lot of the set designs and practical effects were really bad. I had some issues with the casting back then. Yeah, as well as some other things which I will sort of just hash out once again on this review. But I am doing this review again because I'm reviewing it for a different purpose. So that first review, that was very much to review the 1984 Dune in the context of Denis Villeneuve's Dunes. And I sort of wanted to compare the two adaptations and emphasize like what went really right in Denis' Dune and what went really wrong in David's Dune. The purpose of this review of 1984 Dune is to contextualize the film within all of David Lynch's filmography. I want to draw out the differences between this and his other films and the similarities as well, which I do believe there are some. Getting into this movie specifically, I want to talk a little bit about the background of this film. I've been doing that with all of the David Lynch movies I'm covering, and I think it's a really great way to sort of illustrate Lynch's career thus far. And for those of you who know anything about this movie and this movie as it pertains to David Lynch, this plays a really pivotal role in his career. This was a very negative experience for Lynch, and it left a really sour taste in his mouth. There was a lot of studio interference with this movie. They gave him a lot of orders to change the original vision that he had. I'll get into that in a bit. And ultimately, David Lynch was really disappointed in the outcome of this movie and this movie's performance. And it basically caused him to swear off just like large box office movies altogether. And that is why we have like the David Lynch movies that come after this. All of them are more just sort of independent movies and a lot more abstract. They're not really trying to appeal to larger audiences. So, although this movie did present a lot of challenges to Lynch and was an overall negative experience for him, I think that this movie is very important in Lynch's career and shaped the Lynch that we had at the end of his career. Getting into the background of this movie a little bit. So, after the success of Elephant Man, Lynch was invited to direct this movie, and he was also invited to direct Return of the Jedi, which I think is crazy. And I just want to say that I'm so glad that he did not direct Return of the Jedi, because who knows what would have happened with that one. But he was interested in Dune, he read the book, he loved it, and he was really excited to adapt it. Because of creative differences, there were a lot of different drafts made for this movie. In the end, though, Lynch made two scripts from the original book with hopes to make two films. He wanted to break this into a part one and a part two, but he was told by studio executives to condense it to one film. So after the filming process and after editing, he came out with a cut of the film that ran 4 hours long. So he said, okay, I couldn't have two movies. So what about one 4 hour movie? And the studio told him no, he had to make it 2 hours. Because this was such a drastic cut, he actually had to go back and film new scenes. He also recorded the introduction that we see in this movie with Princess Arulin being the narrator, and he added all of the voiceover to this movie, which is something new I discovered. In my first viewing, I didn't really know that the voiceovers were added post production, but it definitely makes a lot more sense in this because you can tell just with the timing of the scenes how some voiceovers don't really fit in the scenes very well or don't make that much sense. Or I don't know, they just, the character doesn't look like they're giving a voiceover. I don't know how to explain it. And we also see that there were supposed to be multiple films with all of these actors as well. One of the actors stated recently that she signed on to do 3 films. David Lynch, he was originally planning on also adapting Dune Messiah into a film. He stated multiple times that he really likes Dune Messiah and thought it was really cool and had cool ideas. And the preparations were actually made for 2 sequel films after this first one. Kyle MacLachlan even signed a 2 movie deal, but after the underperformance of this film in the box office, all plans for any sequels were scrapped. Speaking of that box office, the film grossed $30.9 million against a $40 million budget, which is pretty bad. Lynch was so disappointed in this film that in some regions, the credits even don't name him or he goes under a pseudonym just because he wants to separate himself from this movie. So this is really just not a good moment in Lynch's career, but like I said, it's also quite a pivotal one. But I getting into the movie itself a bit, I also do want to say that there is a lot of good that came of this movie. One of those good things being Kyle MacLachlan. This was his debut role, and this was also, of course, the start of a lifelong partnership with David Lynch. Kyle and David, they would go on to make Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks together. So just like these iconic movies, shows, roles. So there was a lot of good that came out of this. And I would like to start this discussion just by saying, like, I do still think of this movie as a Lynch movie. And I think that is most represented by the freaking white noise. It is in every single David Lynch project, and I've really been like studying the white noise or the wind noise really closely in this Lynchian Picks series. But sure enough, Dune started and the white noise came in. It just, I love it so much. And there's that documentary Lynch Oz, which I hopefully will discuss in this series. Um, but it talks about how the white noise that Lynch adds to his films is so subtle, but it's perfect in adding a layer of mystery to the film. I think that a lot of the set pieces in this movie also look like they came right out of a David Lynch painting. I think of like when there are those light lamps floating above the characters, or when you see like a spaceship flying, or even that like giant worm creature in space during those more abstract sequences. It looks like something that came out of one of Lynch's paintings. And I really like that. There's a lot of just like stylistic choices that remind me of Lynch here. Besides that, I the cast, of course, is very Lynchian, you could say. Um, a lot of these actors I do not know. Some of them feel very like old Hollywood. I don't know how to describe it. They probably are. But of course, we have Kyle MacLachlan in this. We have Jack Nance, which he plays a Harkonnen. I know I talked about this in my first review, but he plays a Harkonnen, which is always just kind of funny to me because it's so different than the other roles that he plays in Lynch's films. We have Everett McGill, Big Ed from Twin Peaks, and he's also in The Straight Story. He's in this and he plays one of the Fremen. I think he plays Stilgar, if I'm not mistaken. And also one of the more subtle Twin Peaks, or one of the more subtle David Lynch partnerships, Alicia Witt, who plays, what's her name? Gertrude in Twin Peaks. One of the Hayward girls. I forgot her name. Alicia Witt is in this. She plays the baby, the little baby who is really scared. Okay, have you all seen T.S. Madison on the Bald and the Beautiful podcast when she talks about the Dune movie and she's like, "For how could this be? For he is the Kwisatz Haderach." That is so funny to me. Or the silence. What is she? She just like quotes this movie really well. I'm gonna link that in the show notes too. T.S. Madison doing impressions from this movie. It's so funny. I did not do them justice at all. But yeah, Alicia Witt is in this. I think that's all of the David Lynch collaborators I can think of. Some other similarities. You of course have this like good versus evil. I know in Dune Messiah, Paul being a good guy is kind of like up in the air. Not to spoil too much. But in the for the sake of this story, Paul is very much like pure good, and of course the Harkonnens are pure evil. And David Lynch, he always characterizes his villains in a very specific way. They are just very gross. They are very like disorderly, and they are just very like offensive. In ways that are very like surface level. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm starting to notice sort of a pattern with how he depicts villains. And usually this character who is our protagonist, who is pure good, often finds himself like in a crossroads between these two families. So I think that's really interesting as well. And that is really all I can say. I okay. Now, I was surprised to find out at first, watching this movie the second time, I was enjoying myself a little bit more than I expected. I really liked the visuals. I really liked some of the performances. I really like when the Atreides family is on Caladan and we get like the images of the ocean. Um, I think that's it. I like some of like the style of the sets, only some of them. Kyle MacLachlan is great. He does a good job for his debut role. But my God, I just, nothing else quite worked for me this time. I think I actually might have been, I mean, this was my second time watching it, so I can't say I liked it even less. I think I just was like more over it than I ever had been. I will be honest, I got to the part with the Holy War. I got like two-thirds in. I just fast forwarded to the end. I could not do it anymore. I could not do it. I've never done that with a movie I've had on this show. I've never like gave up. But for this one, I was like, I cannot. I cannot do it. This movie is just like not easy to watch. I don't think there's a lot of fun to be had here. I think in the beginning it's more tolerable, but like it just gets worse as it goes on. The voiceovers in this movie, I could definitely tell this time through that they were added later, and it was very much like studio executives thought like, oh, audiences won't be able to understand this, or it's not explaining enough, so we need to spell out everything. And of course, so there's that, but also you could tell that the movie was really, really cut down because really important parts of the movie are just kind of like narrated through, which makes this movie just very awkward. And there's like no really drive to watch this. There's no interest. I said this in my first review, but it feels sort of like a documentary. It's like structured like a nature documentary. I would even watch that over this, honestly. But like, in Dune, there's the Holy War, which is very important and a lot happens. And that's just narrated through. Or Paul taking the water of life, Jessica becoming the mother of the Fremen, um, the daughter being born, everything. It's really just rushed through so quickly. And I understand how that happened because they ordered it to be really reduced. But it really bothers me when there's so much other like junk in this movie. Like we get so much time with just like the Harkonnens being gross that I don't think we need. I don't think that's necessary. We get like the milking the cat thing and the weird bottle of juice where they crush the little alien. We get so much of like Baron, like them like putting syringes in his giant welts, and we get him like floating around and laughing. There's even like him just like flying around a room laughing for like 2 minutes. And if we're really like cutting down, we really need to make cuts to the movie to fit in as much story as possible. I don't see why we're not cutting that. I don't know. This just felt so rushed out the door. Um, yeah, in the structure, I really do not enjoy. I think this movie, this story is really meant to be told in two parts. I know the book, it does like what this movie does, and it sort of spells out everything from the beginning. Like Dr. Yue will betray them, and there will be like it's a trap when they go to Arrakis and this and that. And it says it all from the beginning. This movie does the same thing, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. Just because the book did it does not mean the movie should. When you are adapting from a book to a movie, you also have to adapt the structure. The structure of a book works differently from a movie, and I think the way that Denis and his writers structured that version of Dune, it works so much better and it offers so much more to the audience. There's so much more engagement and interest to be had with those films. Where this one, when nothing is a mystery, when nothing is sort of, I don't know, left to be discovered, there's really no motivation, and there's really no connection I can have or engagement I can have with this film in that case. I also just want to take a second to note once again, I will say some of the sets in this movie look good, but the Gidi Prime set, the fucking green room, the brat room, it looks like unfinished. It looks so bad. It is assaulting to the eyes. The ceiling, the fact that there's no ceiling and you just like see the sound stage, it feels like, is horrendous. I cannot believe that made it on screen somehow. I just had to note that. I'm going through my notes right now, so I just want to make sure I hit everything. Another really fun thing I noticed, on the other hand, is that David Lynch is in this movie, and he's one of the people on the spice mill that's talking to the helicopter thing, and I thought that was just kind of fun. But yeah, that's really kind of everything I have to say. I'm sorry if this is a short review, but I feel like I've just said everything I need to say about this film. I do yeah, the structure is just so horrendous in this movie, and it really shoots itself in the foot here. Like, I'm just thinking of the one moment with Paul and Chani, when there's supposed to be a romance between the two, and that's supposed to be kind of like worked up to. uh like the first interaction they have is like they run into the hall and they just start making out, and Paul's like, I love you so much, and like it's just, I don't know, like they just I don't know who was paying attention to what they were cutting, but it was, I don't know what to say. Like, much like I gave up with watching the film, I'm starting to give up with reviewing this movie. I can promise you I will not review this movie ever again. I don't know what reason I would have to do that. um I guess some other things that relate it back to David Lynch is, you do have like those very cerebral, abstract sequences. I think of like the worm going through space and the beams of light and everything. Um, so that, I guess that's Lynchian, and also like the quote, "The sleeper must awaken." In David Lynch's movies, you get a lot of like references to a dream or a sleeper. Um, yeah, I don't know what that means in the context of Dune, but I guess like waking up to the prophecy. But I could see why David Lynch was attracted to this project. I can see why he's attracted to the book. And I would have loved to see this full vision realized. And I think just watching this film and ignoring like the voiceovers, I can very clearly see like the David Lynch in this movie, because when there's voiceovers happening, there's so much time the camera spends lingering on different characters or on the environment. And I think what Lynch originally wanted was for people to just kind of like sit with this world and with these people. It's just such a huge disservice for like the voiceovers to be shoehorned in. It does this movie so dirty, I think. I think the ending is interesting here. There's kind of like a tinge, even though it's a very like happy and victorious ending, I think there's a tinge of dread at the end, which, that's Lynchian. I think of Blue Velvet a little bit. It's a very happy ending, but there's also like a underlying feeling of like there's something wrong, which would have been really cool if Lynch could have expanded on that in Dune Messiah, because if you know anything about that, you know that something is wrong. Um, so yeah, it's just very disappointing. It's very sad, this movie, to watch it. It's kind of like the low point of Lynch's career, but that's saying something because this is so early on, so it only goes up from here. But I think of this movie and the studio interference, and it, that is so necessary for him to like tell such an effective story in like Mulholland Drive. Or if you've ever seen like the behind the scenes of Twin Peaks The Return, you know that he is so serious about like not worrying about how long a scene is or not worrying about explaining things. And he doesn't worry about those things to a fault. But I much rather have that than for things to be over explained or way too short, like not nearly long enough to tell the story to its fullest extent. Like I said before, this is a very necessary step in Lynch's career, and this shaped him into the legendary director that we know him as today. Unfortunately, though, I still am going to have to give this movie the Nick Nicks. Even with my newfound appreciation, the 1984 iteration of Dune can never seem to escape its own trap. With a plot that spells out its every move, awkward and confusing use of voiceover, and a visual style that misses more often than it hits, I simply couldn't make it through this film for a second time. Whispers of a vision eke through the sandy surface of this adaptation, but it's never quite strong enough to avoid being swallowed whole. If you want to watch this, I watched it on Netflix, but I think it kind of just hops between different streaming services. I honestly do not recommend watching this. Even if you are a David Lynch fan, I just do not think this is pleasant or enjoyable. But if you're a completionist, then I guess you have to do it. But like I said, I do have a newfound appreciation for this movie, just sort of seeing like the underlying David Lynch influence in it. Especially after his passing, it was really beautiful to see that in this film now. And to watch this movie kind of like as a more well-rounded movie reviewer and podcaster. Uh, I had some new things to discover here. Oh yeah, in my original review, I way over exaggerated how good Sting was in this movie. I don't know why. In my original review, I was like, Sting's performance in this is the best performance I've ever seen. It was electrifying. Blah blah blah. Way too much. Way, 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 way too much. Was Fade Rotha fun? Yes. Of course, that character is a lot of fun. Was it an electrifying performance? It was good, but I was taking it way too far. I don't know what someone slipped into my cereal that morning. Maybe I just saw Sting shirtless in that one shot, he has those like black Harkonnen undies. Maybe I was just like going a little crazy. I don't know. But it's just kind of funny to listen back. So I hope I never have to review this movie again. I hope I never have to do that. But if you're listening to this, if you watched this movie with me, thank you for doing that. And I see you. I'm here with you. And I'm just excited to keep moving on. If you would like to follow along, the next episode of the Lynchian Picks collection will feature a returning guest, and it will cover Blue Velvet. And I can guarantee that episode, that movie, is a lot better. It's a lot more fun. So get ready, get excited. It's going to be a good time. That will be released in 2 weeks from today. So Thursday, July 3rd or Friday the 4th. Come on, 4th of July. Also, if you'd like to send in a Dear Coffee Nick letter, you are always welcome to do so. I am especially looking for David Lynch related ones. You can email those to me at coffeenicksmoviepicks@gmail.com or just DM me on social media. If you are listening to this, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the Patreon. I'm having a great time doing this. I know I was talking to my coffee thought about like having trouble recording, but I found it. I found my flow. I feel good about this episode. So it's a happy ending. So thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening. Before you go, please consider becoming a regular on the Patreon Coffee House for only $3 a month, which will grant you bonus content on here and shout-outs on the main show. If you would like to stay up to date on the show, please follow at Coffee Nick's Movie Picks on Instagram and at Coffee Nick on Blue Sky. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, drop me a rating, and tell a friend about me. It really helps. A special thank you to Nathan Moore for creating the show's opening and closing themes. Until next time, abomination!